We often measure a nation's strength by its economy, military, or influence abroad. Yet beneath these visible markers lies something far more consequential: the moral choices of leaders, the integrity of institutions, and the shared mindset of a society. These invisible forces shape legitimacy, trust, and collective resilience, defining whether a nation thrives or fractures under pressure. In modern America, we see these forces at work in ways both obvious and subtle, from political polarization and civic engagement to social movements and policy debates. Today we explore how moral psychology, the study of ethics, beliefs, and human judgment, shapes the trajectory of a superpower, influencing national cohesion, crisis recovery, and the very identity of a people. Welcome to Nations and Notions. I'm Professor Elias Hawthorne, and together we'll uncover the hidden architecture of morality, psychology, and governance that underpins modern America. In this episode, we will move beyond surface politics and economics to examine how collective beliefs, cultural norms, and ethical choices influence resilience and societal evolution. By tracing the interplay between moral psychology and public life, we will uncover surprising truths about how Americans respond to crises, navigate conflict, and define what it means to be a nation in an era of unprecedented change. To understand modern America, we must first understand the moral framework on which it was built. From the founding documents of 1776 to contemporary civic debates, the nation's ethos has been shaped by ideals of liberty, equality, and justice. Yet these principles exist in tension with human psychology. Our biases, tribal instincts, and moral heuristics often influence political choices more than reasoned deliberation. Consider the work of Jonathan Haidt, a political psychologist who argues that moral foundations, care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, and liberty guide political alignment in ways most of us barely notice. For instance, debates over healthcare, taxation, or environmental policy are not only about resources, but about perceived moral obligations and collective responsibility. This interplay between morality and policy explains why certain crises evoke unity, while others magnify division. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, revealed profound differences in how Americans weighed communal responsibility against personal freedom, a conflict at the core of moral psychology and national resilience. Surveys show that Americans often overestimate their moral consensus, even in highly polarized times. This disconnect between perception and reality affects governance, social cohesion, and trust in institutions. History provides a mirror for modern moral psychology. Take the civil rights movement. Americans faced a national moral reckoning as citizens, courts, and leaders confronted entrenched injustice. Progress emerged not from coercion alone, but from shifts in collective moral understanding, a psychological transformation where empathy, social norms, and ethical leadership converged. Fast forward to post-9/11 America. National trauma tested social cohesion, trust in institutions, and ethical governance. Policies like the Patriot Act sparked moral debates over liberty versus security, highlighting how collective psychological responses shape both policy and identity. Even economic crises offer lessons. During the 2008 financial collapse, the U.S. witnessed a fracture between public perception of fairness and institutional accountability. Citizens' sense of moral legitimacy, whether banks, corporations, or government officials acted ethically, directly influenced compliance, social trust, and the speed of economic recovery. Resilience is not only structural, it's psychological. Nations recover when citizens perceive moral alignment between their values and the decisions of those in power. America's moral psychology is deeply entwined with its culture. The nation's stories, from frontier self-reliance to narratives of social justice, cultivate a collective mindset that values innovation, liberty, and ethical responsibility. These narratives shape behavior, from grassroots activism to civic participation, guiding how Americans respond to crises and change. Take environmental policy debates. While economic incentives matter, the moral framing of stewardship, intergenerational responsibility, and fairness often determines public support or resistance. Cultural resilience is psychological as much as structural. It allows a society to absorb shocks, adapt, and evolve. During the early 2020s, Americans showed remarkable adaptability in response to climate disasters and social unrest, not just through policy or aid, but via communal solidarity, volunteerism, and ethical debate, a testament to the power of shared values in shaping outcomes. Moral psychology also governs the perception of leadership. Citizens do not simply respond to competence, they respond to perceived integrity, fairness, and alignment with societal values. In contemporary America, leaders are constantly tested. Crises reveal whether their decisions are ethically grounded or purely instrumental. From bipartisan legislation to executive action, moral credibility can either bridge divides or deepen fractures. Consider the political debates surrounding public health, social equity, and foreign policy. Public compliance, trust, and cohesion hinge on the perception of ethical governance as much as legal authority. Studies indicate that public trust in institutions is more predictive of national resilience than GDP or military capacity. Societies with higher moral legitimacy recover faster and maintain cohesion even under intense stress. Modern America faces layered challenges: political polarization, misinformation, global competition, and climate disruption. Moral psychology helps explain the reactions, why communities rally in some crises and fragment in others, why citizens trust some leaders but reject others, and why collective action sometimes succeeds or fails. Social media amplifies moral signaling, making ethical judgment public and immediate. While this accelerates accountability, it also heightens perception of moral threat, influencing behavior, legislation, and cultural norms. The debates over voting rights and civic engagement illustrate how perceived fairness, integrity, and collective morality directly influence political participation and national resilience. As we consider America today, we see that a nation's strength is more than economics or military power. True resilience comes from ethical leadership and moral legitimacy, collective adherence to shared cultural and societal values, the psychological capacity to adapt, forgive, and cooperate. We must ask ourselves, how do our moral choices shape the trajectory of the nation? How do we contribute to societal cohesion, trust, and resilience? Understanding moral psychology is not abstract. It is the lens through which we can read the past, navigate the present, and influence the future. America's story, like that of all nations, is written not only in policy or economy, but in the ethical and psychological currents that run beneath the surface. By studying these forces, we see how moral leadership, cultural resilience, and collective mindset define national destiny. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of moral psychology and modern America. I'm Professor Elias Hawthorne, and this has been Nations and Notions, where global morals meet modern realities. If you want to continue examining the ethical and psychological forces shaping societies worldwide, subscribe and join us on this journey.